Welcome to Madness Returns on second thought. Although I'm not really sure if that means this would be Madness Returns, Madness 2, Electric Boogaloo maybe? Anyway, semantics. The game is something that I really did feel it would be worthy of a second thought video, and it turns out it is. I've got a lot of things that after playing it for a little bit, they're now sat in my mind, and some bad, some good. The game isn't as mind-blowing as I thought it would be, but I try to keep a level head when I'm going into these things. So, going to instantly jump in straight away and go for a recap. The graphic style of the game was something that I really couldn't make my mind up on in first glance, and I've decided that it's a game that's beautiful. It's graphically beautiful, not graphically intensive. You shouldn't be looking at it under a microscope trying to examine every single texture. You should be taking it at face value, like I just did in the video, staring out at the wonderful, wonderful view in the distance of the castle. It just looks beautiful. If you look down and you examine the ground underneath you, okay, yeah, it may look a bit flat or uninteresting, but the actual graphics of the game are beautiful. They're stunning. They work. That's what Wonderland is meant to be. Now, moving on to the controls of the game, I said that I wanted to have a look at using a controller in first glance, and this was something that I did do over the weekend. I did go and play with the controller a little bit and then go back to using mouse and keyboard. And the reason for this is actually really simple. I feel that this game has gone the other way from consolification. Nice word there. And I'm just actually going to let you watch this little bit of audio and then I'll explain.
The Hatter's Domain. Almost as I remember it.
Appearances, as you know better than most, can be deceiving, Alice. Much has changed since your last visit.
Dr. Bumby says change is constructive, that different is good.
Different denotes neither bad nor good, but it certainly means not the same. Find the Hatter, Alice. He knows more about different than you.
But does he know more about the difference between bad and good?
Making friends, Alice. You're as randomly lethal and entirely confused as you ever were.
I've managed without you so far, Cat. Return to whatever hovels home to you. I'll call if I need you.
Predictably rash. It's not a question of if, Alice, it's when. Now hold on, and as they say, shut up.
So typical.
So as I was saying, the anti-consolification, the game does work with a controller. It's nice with a controller, but keyboard and mouse just, I felt, gave me more control. It enabled me to use the camera and look around a bit better, enabling me to find those pig snouts that are floating around. Not only that, but as I said in first glance, there's that focus combat thing, which I felt was really designed for the console. And I have to admit that that's still the case, but there are other things in the game that make it seem like they were done for the PC. For example, tips is one of them. If you are in the early stages of the game and you're using a controller on the PC, it will explain things like you press this key to jump or this key to dodge. And it won't actually tell you what the button is until afterwards, and sometimes for me it didn't actually tell me what button it was. One of the things that it did that with was the umbrella. It didn't tell me how to block with the umbrella. It told me how to do it on the keyboard. It told me that I needed E to do it on the keyboard. Didn't tell me how to do it with the controller. And I feel that's just as bad as doing it the other way round. Neglecting the controller is just as bad as neglecting mouse and keyboard. I think that they're both as bad as each other, and if you're going to use mouse and keyboard, you should at least acknowledge that some people want to use a controller, and if you're going to use a controller, you should at least acknowledge that some people want to use mouse and keyboard. Anyway, moving on from that, the reason that I wanted to test these was to see how they worked in combat mainly, and see how they felt. And I have to say that the combat overall is fluid, and I really liked it. As I mentioned in first glance, the flow of the combos really seems to work and is really nice. However, at the same time, it locks you into those combos. If you're in the middle of an animation, it really leaves you open. And on the higher difficulty settings, that can really punish you when you're in a group situation and you're attacking one guy and your animations are locked in there and you get hit from behind. Especially with some of the bigger guys who take off really large chunks of your health. Now, when you're fighting the bigger guys, one of the ruin guys that you fight has 3 faces, actually blocks himself, and to break this you need to use focus until you actually unlock some of the stronger weapons. The focus system was something I said I didn't like in first glance, and I have to admit it's still something that I didn't like. The focus system doesn't sit well with me at all. I really dislike it, and the reason for that is it locks your camera so that you are stuck in this kind of mano a mano view of you're focused in on this one target. You can tab to change between them, but I feel that that just makes things really complicated, and the main time you would be using this focus system is in group combat, yet it's designed as focusing on one enemy. It's really kind of confusing in that aspect, and I'm sure some people say they love the focus system. I know my housemate really enjoys it, but I can't get to grips with it at all. I just cannot seem to come to terms with that system. Now, one of the things that I mentioned just a moment ago was the weapons. When you get the stronger weapons, this focus system doesn't really come into play as much. And thankfully that's actually true. Once you get the hobby horse, you can use that to break the blocks, and you don't really need the focus of using the umbrella. The weapons themselves, I have to admit, I really loved, because you can customize them. And when I say customize them, you collect the teeth in the game. A gold tooth is worth 5 normal teeth, and this is a really grim, dark thing, and it works in Alice. It's that beautiful kind of dark.
Your judgment must
And
be severely impaired.
the teeth are then used to upgrade your weapons. The weapons change looks when you've upgraded them. So the hobby horse, for example, starts off looking just like a hobby horse. When you upgrade it one level, it will then gain red and white stripes, and its eyes will start flaming. They really do actually change graphically, and they've got effects going with them. So the stronger you get a weapon, it does show as being stronger, and it really does look nice. The one thing I dislike about the weapons, though, is that you actually can get some as DLC, which came with the pre-order for the game. And they are accompanying some dresses that you get as part of the DLC pack. And this is something that I really didn't like. The DLC in the game... excuse me. The DLC in the game is something that you shouldn't use the first time around, and I don't think that's really great. It's not things like they change her appearance. They change her appearance and give her extra abilities, or they change the weapon and make the weapons stronger. For example, the Vorpal Cleaver, that is one of them. This actually increases the damage you do, and I think one of the dresses decreases the damage that you take, and one of them gives you Hysteria all the time at will. And these are kind of things that, okay, they may add a little bit of replayability to the game, because you can go back and you can try playing it through with one of these dresses, like the one that you lose teeth instead of health. But playing it through the first time, I don't really think these are things that you're going to want to use, and I think they're actually going to diminish the enjoyment of your first playthrough, rather than add to it.
Reminds me of my snowdrop.
Now,
I knew her.
Speaking of playthroughs, and speaking of gameplay as a whole, I just want to cover a few points, and then I think that's it for now. I'm going to try and make this about 15-20 minutes long. So, the gameplay overall is slow. I've clocked in a good few hours now, and it's really something that I'm having problems with. It's very slow, but it's nice in its slowness. You go back and forth from Wonderland to the real world, as it's now showing you, and the real world is used to transition between the levels. So you'll go from somewhere in Wonderland to the real world, and where you go in the real world will actually determine where you're going in Wonderland next. But the game has about 6 chapters, I believe it is, and each one at an average pace is taking 2 to 3 hours for me and a few of my friends to complete. And this is good. That means, you know, if you're seeing 6 chapters at 3 hours each, then you're looking about 18 hours to play, which is a nice change from seeing 8-hour games. But some people may get annoyed by this. The game is slow, it's tedious at times, because in each world there are puzzles, but they stay basically the same. For example, the first world that you come across, the Hatter's Domain, the one with valves, and there's only so many valves you can turn and so many air things you can jump into before it just starts getting the same and tedious. Personally, I would have liked to see more chapters that were shorter, maybe an hour each chapter, and just more of them, more locales, more areas that you visit. But I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I mean, it gets tedious due to the puzzles, yes, and the game is slow and it's methodical, but that's what this game is about. It's about the journey, not the destination. It's trying to show you this Wonderland and what's happened to it, and really show you Alice and her instability, and the game as a whole works. As long as you're not looking for instant gratification, as long as you're not looking for the destination. The game takes a while to get going in regards to story. It drops you straight in, you have a lot of questions, it takes a while for them to get answered. But they do get answered, and the gameplay itself is fantastic. The story is wonderful, the voices, some of them aren't as good as the original game, some of them are even better than the original game. And Alice herself is wonderful. That kind of dark, I don't have time for this, what's going on? This is pointless, you're not helping me, help me, why am I going crazy? My craziness is affecting all of this kind of thing. She's unstable, and it shows in Wonderland, but the wonderful transitions from Wonderland to real life and the way Alice works just really make for a solid game. So as long as you're looking for a game that's about the journey, not the destination, and as long as you're looking for a game that takes its pace slowly and methodically and is doing it for a reason, I believe this is a game that you'll enjoy. You might enjoy it, you might not. I'm not honestly going to say, I'm not going to say that this game is, you know, a rating system or 5 or 10 or whatever. It's a game that I'll enjoy. It's a game that a lot of you may enjoy, depending on what style of game you like. At the end of the day, I think if a demo comes out of this, you should at least give it a try. It's a wonderful take on a world that everyone should be familiar with. The weapons, the dresses are fantastic, the characters you meet are truly, truly gorgeous and beautiful and funny and dark. And it all just comes together in a wonderful, wonderful mesh that creates a great gaming experience no matter what you're looking for. Now, I'm going to actually end it there. And as a leaving gift, I'm going to leave you with a little clip from the end of one of the earlier levels. Doesn't give any spoilers, it's not about the story. But I thought you'd just like to see this rather nightmare-envisioned train that I came across. So I'm going to leave you with that. Hope you enjoy it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.